Hello, everybody. How are y'all doing? Let me know that you can hear me. It looks like we are live. And let me know if the sync is okay. I did check it quite a bit before going. So I'll just kind of hang out for that one and we'll see. I want to say hi to Matt. A few people that I know are on. I can see right now. I know Matt's on. Hi to Matt. Happy birthday to your mom. Nemo Unknown. Hey, thanks Nemo Unknown for giving me that feedback there. Always good to know the sound's okay. And I want to say hi to Ron as well. Ron Shack, I see, is on. Okay, well, we're going to wait a few minutes here, but today we're going to talk a little bit about getting that outside sound on guitar. Jeremy James, hey, buddy. How are you? Hey, Jeremy, if you can, I don't know, maybe on Facebook we can message a little bit and we can coordinate something. But it'd be awesome to get together. I can either bring my camera out and whatever. We can meet halfway or meet in a place where you play, or you can come out here. But let's do it. Let's do it. All right. Be good to do it on the live stream. Studio Deluxe, good morning to you. Nissan 570 LSX. Okay, he says, don't worry, I'm here, we can start. Michael J., good to see you. All right, Dan McGee, 1024. Okay, yeah, thanks, Jeremy. That's great. Okay, so today we're going to talk a little bit. Hi, James W. told RJ about me. Hey, thanks, Matt. I appreciate that. That's great. He's a great player. He really is. Love listening to his stuff. I mean, he's a pro. You know, he's done this for real. So he's not just a YouTuber. Not trying to diss anybody here, by the way. But it's all good. Okay, well, we're at the 2:20 moment. P is on. And TBA's on. Hi, TBA. Good to see you this morning. Hi, P. All right, so today we're going to talk about getting that outside sound. You know, you hear it from like a Scott Henderson or, I'm trying to remember the guy who is driving me crazy. I can't remember his name now. Oh, well. But even Robin Ford, you know, how they sometimes have that outside sound in the blues. And, of course, it's very common in jazz. So here's a few simple ways to do it in blues rock. And, so let's kind of cover that. So we got 18 people on. We're going to be doing that. Oh, hey, before we get started, I'm going to cool it just a little bit on the live streams. I'm going to go to the first and third Sundays of every month for a while. So we'll see. So this is the first Sunday. Then we'll do it not next week, but the week after. And I'll announce them. They're always announced on my channel. They're always announced on my Facebook if you're friends with me on Facebook. And I always put out I always publish them early. So if you've hit that bell, you will definitely get notified for it. Okay? So I'm going to cool it just a little bit and do it first and third Sundays. Work is kind of really putting a crimp on me, and I got to spend some time with family. So I know you're my guitar family. I dig that, but my other family's missing me as well. So I got to carve out some time. All right, so let's talk again about about playing outside. So we've all heard it once in a while, and I think the first time I heard it really on a oh, hi Robbie Love, I heard it on sort of like a blues or a rock album, was on Robin Ford's Talk to Your Daughter and on his solo to Help the Poor, where all of a sudden he was playing this sort of thing where I just thought, did the Martians just land? I mean, I knew that there wasn't any scale that I knew that was going on there. So, I've come to amass a few different ways. I don't think I've ever mastered that sort of play, but I do know a couple of tricks around it. So we're going to try that with a particular backing track right now. And let me just kind of demo a little bit about what I'm talking about first, and I'll try and do all of the things. Some of these things I know better than others, so or I perform better than others. So we're going to check it out. All right, so this is, I think you'll recognize this as very Hendrixian sort of backing track, okay? So let's go. Whoop. Okay, I caught myself. I'm going to put this on so you can see what I'm doing here. Everybody always asks me to do this, so hopefully this will work. Let's try that again. Sorry about that, gang. Okay, I think we got it. It's going to be in E minor pentatonic mostly. Okay, well, not the best improv. I was trying to fit everything in there. But let's kind of break it down in terms of some of the things that we're trying to do. So, first of all, let's talk about the chord progression. And the chord progression is basically pretty simple. It's sort of like a... Okay, let me turn down the distortion because that's just too much there. So basically what's going on there is we start with like an E dominant, an E seventh, let's say. And there's 4 of those. Then we go to a C chord, a C dominant chord there. After that we go to a G, an A, and then we're back to our E. Okay, so what's going on there, and where can you put in that sort of outside sound, and how do you do it? Well, there's lots of different things that I could tell you, but one of the main things that I think that I've sort of gleaned over the years is that outside sounds work pretty well in funky sort of chord progressions, and this is one of them, right? So this is a funky chord progression, and it's in E, and there's an E dominant, so it's likely to be an E minor pentatonic that we can use, or a E blues scale that we can use as sort of our main scale. And you know what? We could get away with most of that, except over that C dominant. Now there's lots of different, as I said before, dominant chords can take a lot of tension, and so when you're on a dominant chord for a long time, you can try to play something outside. Let's focus on this one on when we go to that C7 chord or that C dominant chord as the place where we either play coming up to that chord something outside, or on that chord we're going to play something outside. Okay, so I'm going to tell you 3 different ways that you can do that. The first way is, for me, actually the hardest way, and that is to take a lick and just move it down or up chromatically. Okay, so for example, we could take this lick right here. Let's see. Let me take off the delay on that too. There we go. There we go. That's a really simple lick, right? So if we're going from that lick from the E dominant to that C dominant, well, we can think about sort of varying that, moving it down or up and around that lick until we get on a place where, like, let's say if we're playing it over the E dominant chord, you can actually see that it still works over that C dominant. And that's because it's the third of the chord that we're ending up on. It's the third of the C, of a C major, right? So it's of a, or of a C seventh. It's the third there, which is the E. So if we're playing something around there and we want to sound outside, we can kind of vary that a little bit and then come back to it. And that's going to be the key thing here with all of these things, is when you play outside, you have to have a plan to get back in the pocket. And at least for today, we're going to focus on always landing on the third of the chord or the root of the chord. So on C, it would be either the C or the E. So let's see if we can try doing that. I'm going to try a bunch of licks where I'm just going the same lick chromatically until I go from that E, and I'm going to end up at the third of C. So the third of C is an E, and let's just kind of map out all the E's on the fretboard, at least in the area where I'm playing, which is really kind of 7th to 15th fret, that sort of area of the fretboard. So if you're looking for the E's, there's an E right there. Here's an E right here. 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 And here's an E right here. Now that's a lot, but it's simplified a lot because in most solos you're not going to be playing on the 6th string and ending up on that so much. But if we can focus on maybe landing on this E right here, or on this E right here, or on this E right here, I think you'll see what happens is we can play around with licks and vary them and move them down. I'm going to try and demo that. Like I said, this is my least favorite of all the 3. So I think this demo is probably going to suck, this part of it, but let's give it a shot. Okay, so here we go. Catch it next time. Okay, so I know that was kind of a lame attempt, but did you hear how it ended on that note? And that was a really good note to come back in the pocket with. Well, while all this kind of sounds crazy, all that stuff in between sounds crazy, but as long as you have a plan to get to a certain particular note, you're going to be okay. And that's kind of the lesson about, at least for me, in terms of playing out, is as long as you know where you're going How you get there doesn't really matter. So you can play outside lines, and they're going to sound okay as long as you come back in. So that's the first. Way that we could do that. I'm going to take a couple questions and just kind of look and see what we're doing. I'll give you two other ways of doing this. That's actually, I think most people say that that's their preferred method. That's actually my least favorite of the three that I'm going to show you today. So there we go. Spread thin. Okay, Daniel Linton. Hey, how you doing? Greetings and salutations. Oh, hi, Garrett. Good to see you. Trevor Trouble. Hey, I love the name. It's all right. TBA, I think I said hi to you before, but hi again. All right. Okay. Yeah, I saw RJ Ronquillo's stuff that on Tim Pierce's channel. Yep. Well, he's a pro. You should listen to him for sure. This is, Mr. Amateur talking and just telling you how I can do it. All right, well, I don't see any questions. So let's move on to the second method. And I'll just tell you the second method while my face is on the screen. The second method that I have is just to play a different scale in the same place that you're at. Now, I'll give you one or two options of what the scale could be or what might work. But any scale works. It's funny how it is. I mean, don't play a chromatic scale because we're going to cover that next. But any scale works. So what I'm talking about is this. So suppose we're playing this right here. Which is the E minor pentatonic right here, or the E blues. And all that sounds great over that. Suppose we want to get an outside sound. I could, for example, start playing, just another scale that doesn't really make a lot of sense there. That's a little bit farther off from that. So, like for example, I could play an E flat major, and that's going to be really off, right? If I'm playing over an E and I play this E flat major, that's definitely not going to fit over that chord. It's going to sound outside. But if I play it in that transition to the C chord or even over that C chord, and yes, once again, I'm going to aim for the third of the chord. Again, I could aim for the root. I have a root right here, which is a C, and a root right here, which is a C. I could aim for that, but I'm going to aim for the third of the chord, which is this E right here. And I'm going to show you how that sounds. So there's a couple of different ways. The other scale, so just playing a major scale, that's not an exotic sort of scale. I'm just playing a weird major scale. I could do anything I want. I could play a G flat major scale. As long as I end up on that third of the chord, it's going to sound cool. And that when I'm playing over that G major scale, it's going to sound, or the G flat major scale, it's going to sound really weird until I get it back in. So let me show you that. And I also want to show you one scale that kind of always works and it always sounds outside. And I think I've shown you this before, but let's just try a couple of different things. First, I'll try the G flat major scale, and then I'll try the E flat major scale. Again, trying to resolve on this third right here. Here we go. Okay, so the first time around, I played the E flat major scale. Ending on that, on a note that's not in the E flat major scale, the E. And the second time around, I played just the G flat major scale. And again, ending on that E. E is not in the G flat major scale. So I guess the only advice I would give, you can use anything that you want. It's going to give you a little bit of an outside sound. Any scale whatsoever will give you an outside sound. But ones that don't contain that third, then when you resolve on that third, it gives such a release of the tension. Sounds pretty cool. All right. So this isn't the third method, but I wanted to tell you a scale that pretty much always works. And it's the diminished scale, but it's a special diminished scale. It's the half step, whole step diminished, or some people call it double diminished. So what it is it's a scale that's made up of like a half step and a whole step. So if I start from E right here, see if I can get that on screen. I could start with E, and then it's a half step followed by a whole step followed by a half step followed by a whole step. So it sounds like this. Sounds like that. Now if we put it all in one position, we can make it actually playable. And you know, that scale works extremely well, and it works better than the regular diminished, which doesn't, it's hard to jam on. I mean, that pattern works okay, but you can only play that like once. After that, you know, you can't be playing it all the time. People recognize it too much. So what Robin Ford actually, what I was listening to one of his I don't know if it was a podcast or an interview, and he said he learned it from Larry Coryell when he heard it, and Larry Coryell said, yeah, he's just playing that. And the difference was that he said, you know, you can just put on a vamp, like on an E flat vamp or something like that, and play over it. You know, and just play over it. And it actually sounds okay. And he used to do a lot of that with Miles Davis. But let me show you how that one works. And that one always sounds outside. So if you're playing an E or an E dominant, you can always kind of play that. That always works. And again, it's just a half step and a whole step. If you start on what I found is my favorite way of thinking about it is if I take this, let's do the one in E. If I take this form right here of an E chord, right, it's the same as this, but just a whole octave up. This major minor helps me, and I try and fit it into this, you know, to the minor pentatonic pattern. And if I do that, I've got, let's see, I've got like this. I've got the pattern of, with my, if I spread out my finger into all four fingers here, playing this, I've got 4, 2, 1, 4, 3, 1. So it's the opposite. So let me try and do that like this. Then it's going to be opposite again. It's going to be 4, 2, 1. And then this is the last part where I can actually do this. Then you have to descend on the notes. But just that right there. A lot of times just ending up on this note is a really cool note if you want to do that. And you'll notice that this note is in there too, which is an E. So let's give that a shot and we'll see how that one goes. So that's just a kind of a new scale, I guess. All right. All right, so there you go. So that's really a an outside sound. I mean, that's definitely an outside sound that you don't hear too much. Let me take a couple of questions here and make sure that we've got it. All right. So Ron Shack asks, so I'm staying in E minor. Yeah, well, this song, basically, it pivots. It has all of an E minor tonality, right? And so, you know, the scale that really kind of works over this, or a scale that really works over this, or ideas, it's kind of a tough sound. So the minor pentatonic actually sounds good. So if you play a minor pentatonic over most of it, it's going to be fine. However, that C7, and here's the thing, if you want to play outside, you don't have to play outside. I could play the whole thing in E minor pentatonic, sound fine. And it might get a little bit boring after a while, but the whole idea here is to add some interest and by playing a little bit outside. And if you do, you can use that C7 chord as a huge tension chord, and that'll take a lot of notes, and so you can play weird stuff over it. And that's really the idea here, is not so much what's the correct note to play, it's sort of like what incorrect notes can you play, and when do you, and how do you play them, and then how do you resolve back into the pocket. The idea is kind of shock you, right? So there you go. All right, so TBA says you should be able to play the B minor pentatonic over the E minor chord. Yeah, for the most part you can, and that's kind of what's going on here, right? This note is a better note. This G is a better note than the G flat or the F sharp, however you want to think about it. It's a much better note. So that's just something to keep in mind. Especially over that G chord. But the B minor pentatonic certainly makes sense. And D major scale actually makes sense as well. I'll let you figure that one out and stew with it for a while if you want to think about modes, what that means in terms of E minor or E. What mode might be a great mode to play over that one, but this is not a modal lesson. It's all about playing outside. Okay. So, how do I acquire that knowledge? Is it something you could work out in the same way that one can count down 3 semitones? Don't know who Geert is talking to if you're asking me. Hey, DT. Hey, Mr. Thomas V. Yeah. So, a lot of the stuff is really, you know, if you're trying to work out what makes sense over a chord progression, you know, that's not what we're talking about here. There's plenty of choices here. You could play the E minor pentatonic or the E blues, and that's kind of what we're doing. But you're not limited to that. I just want to say you're not limited to that. This is about playing outside. So far we've talked about playing a lick and just kind of moving it down or up, moving it chromatically. The second thing is to play a different scale. And usually you can play a totally different scale. You don't want to play something that's close. Like B minor doesn't really give you an outside sound, the B minor pentatonic, but the G flat major scale does, right? There are other pentatonics that you could play. You could play an F minor pentatonic, and that would give you an outside sound a little bit anyway. All right, here's the last one I want to talk about, and this is probably the easiest one to do. Maybe it doesn't give you quite as much of an outside sound, but if you take any scale shape that you're playing over, like for example, I was mostly playing either, as we were saying, an E minor blues scale or an E Dorian scale. Either of those work. And either one of those work. And if you play, let's take the E blues, or let's just take E minor pentatonic because I think that makes the most sense. And so I'll show it to you on the fretboard here. The idea here is really, really simple. If you know any pattern in the E minor pentatonic, it's probably this one, right? So this is the 12th fret, and we're going to play this. right? So you know that pattern. So here's what I'm going to say. Any note in between is fair game. So if I play this, 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 this, all of those are fair game, and they're going to give you some outside sounds. So it's not so much the right notes that you play, but the wrong notes that you play, as long as you come back to it. Again, here's a nice E that we can play over that C dominant. Right? So if I'm playing something like this, that's going to sound good. That's going to sound good. But that's the idea. And that works over any pentatonic pattern. It works over any major scale pattern. It doesn't matter. But the idea is just take that pattern and fill in all the dots in between. Just to drive home the point, let's take one more pentatonic pattern, this one right here. That's another pentatonic pattern. I can play any note in between there. And that's going to give me sort of an outside sound. All right, let's give that a shot, and I'll just show you how that works. This is probably my favorite because it's the easiest. You hear Steve Lukather doing this all the time. He uses chromatics like nuts. All right, so you can see you can go nuts with this as long as you don't get too crazy. It's out there. I think the nice thing about being able to do this once in a while isn't, and this is an important point, you don't want to play outside all the time, because if you play outside all the time, people are gonna start anticipating it, and that's what your play is going to be all about. So it's good to kind of mix things up a little bit. It's good to sort of know when to play the right note and when to play the wrong note and so forth. And I tell you, with that second method, if you're playing an outside scale, you can literally just play the notes of the scale in sort of a, that sort of thing. Or you can even just kind of play them straight. And it's going to sound pretty good. As long as you come back in the pocket. The most important thing about playing outside is to know where the door is to get back in. And at least for today, we're going to say it's on either the root of the chord that you're trying to get to or the third of the chord. So I guess the point of this lesson at the end of the day is for your chords, know what the thirds are, right? The roots are easy. Everybody knows that the root of an E, what's the root of an E flat sharp 9, 7 sharp 9 chord? Answer E flat, right? That's an easy one. But what's the third of that chord? Oh my God, it's the third of E flat, right? So it happens to be A, G. All right, so anyway, just kind of important to know those things and to at least to visualize them on the fretboard. That's helpful. All right. Let's see. And Geert said, oh, thank you, Geert. You love the sound of that last example. That's the one that I use the most, so that's probably the one that I'm best at, which is why it sounds the best. They all work, and I think the key thing is to just play around with it and to do it. Yeah, just play every fret. It's that simple. It really is. I've always enjoyed doing that, and you can get carried away on it as well. So just like I said, use it use it that way. So Mr. Thomas V says I play the wrong, get the wrong note thing down pat. Yeah. Well, it's hard to play the wrong note. You have to be able to play. You have to and to own it, right? You got to own it, but as long as you get back in, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It all kind of, reminds me of the famous Eddie Van Halen quote about playing guitar is kind of like falling down the stairs and landing on your feet. Playing outside that outside sound is all about that, at least the way that I understand it. And there's lots of different ways that you can do this. Yeah. So Robbie, you're right. It takes a lot of confidence in knowing when to resolve, and I think when and where to resolve, and I think that just comes with playing. So and thank you, Ron. And Jeff, I appreciate it. Hi, Jeff. I want to say hi to you. And Tone Seeker, I see you're on as well. So they lie, Ohio. Awesome. So yeah, it takes a lot of practice, and just either put on a backing track or play with a buddy and get to that point where you can resolve it and get comfortable with it. That's what I would say. All right, so that's for today. So I'm going to put this guitar away because I have a raging headache and neck ache and all that. So, that's tough. Oh, but I got a new camera that I'm going to be using, and a new microphone that I'm trying to use as well. And it's much better for the not for these live streams, but for the videos themselves. It's a much better camera. So hopefully that'll make a bit of a difference. Be able to see the videos a little bit better. So let's see. Yeah. So they lie, Ohio. I think he's talking. You ordered a new PRS, huh? What's the PRS that you got? I love PRS guitars. I think they're great. I like a lot of other stuff too. I like how different guitars give you different character, and that's kind of fun. Or a lot of alcohol drugs. Land on the third of the root. Yeah, Ron. So yeah, if you land on the third of the root, can't go wrong. The third or that root always is going to sound really good. Thanks, Daniel. Yeah. Some Tylenol in the shower, yeah. I usually take ibuprofen instead of Tylenol, but same sort of thing. Yeah, I did the shower thing, but I hurt my hands. My hands are all like chewed up now because I was playing a little bit this morning, doing some licks that I don't normally do with both my left and my right. I was doing a lot of finger style this morning and got it out. Okay, thank you, Garrett. Silver Sky. Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, let me know how that is. It's a neat guitar. A new Ultra Strat, says Jeff McManus. What is the Ultra Strat? Is that it's a new Fender line? Hey, Robbie, I think that the Silver Skies, and maybe They Lie Ohio can correct us, but I think that the Silver Skies all have rosewood necks or fretboards. Time for a massage and a cameraman for neck pain. Trust alone because I couldn't try one. Yeah, that's interesting. Oh, you got one. Okay. Seem to have been having very slow but growing awareness of the relationship of the third to the root. Yeah, so get to know those. If you want to memorize things, like, I'm super big on everybody knowing the notes of the fretboard. You got to do it. But if you haven't yet, learn the other couple things that you can learn and you can memorize that I think will help you a lot are, see if I can dig it up. The simplified version of this. Just the inside wheel. The inside wheel of the oh boy, this is hard. It's all moving opposite direction and slowly than I anticipate. But like the relationship of the keys. So you see that there's C, then G, then D, and these are all fifths away from each other, right? And if you go the other way, they're all fourths. So, for example, F is the fourth of C, G is the fifth of C, etc. So this chord, this wheel is really helpful because it tells you the relationship of the keys. That's a good thing to memorize. The other thing that's really good to memorize is, see if I can get this on camera, is triads. So, for example, the A triad is A, C sharp, and E. So to know that E is in that A. And then your ear will also figure out that kind of thing. That flatted seventh is a good one too. Or the seventh is often a good one as well. But yeah. And, you know, with a B, you've got the B, you've got D sharp, and you've got F sharp. So memorizing those or kind of just learning that alphabet's a really good thing to do. And then, of course, it's really helpful to reinforce it on the guitar when you're playing. That way you can actually hear it and feel it as well as just say it with your brain. I also find that it's really helpful to say these things out loud when you're doing them. That just helps to solidify it in your brain. Do it a little bit. Daniel Linton says, Mark, do you have any advice for pick holding? Oh my God, I'm probably the wrong guy for that. I've been playing for almost 10 years. I still have trouble going from tremolo picking to chords. I'm probably the wrong guy for that, Daniel. I have a really odd picking style. I have a back slant, so I play more like George Benson picks. So let's see, I have a back slant. Let me see if I can get this on camera. It's hard to. Oh, there we go. So I think most people recommend that you do this, that you pick with a front slant, a forward slant. See, no, that's the wrong way. There we go. A forward slant. Now I can do that, but when I tremolo pick, I do a back slant, and I kind of hold it sort of like Eddie Van Halen does, except with my forefinger and my thumb. So it's kind of more like George Benson, and I backward slant on it. So. Boy, that was sloppy trying to get it on camera, but so I do that. It's probably not the most efficient thing, but it's what I do. So sorry about that. Anyway, most people like to hold that pick. I think if we take that, the prefer. Whoa, darn it! We can get a bigger one. The preferred method is to kind of fold over your pick behind. Let's see if I can get this on camera, like this, and then to do this. So that's kind of the preferred method. And of course, to get it really close is helpful as well. That's kind of the preferred method. But I don't do it that way. I do it like this. So anyway, to each his own. And now you made me drop my pick. Yeah, you made me do it. I'm blaming somebody else for it. Not very nice. Thanks for the question. That's a good question. That's a good question. All right. Pickups are the star of the show in a silver sky. Okay, well, I have to check it. Yeah, I mean, obviously with different picks, there's the pick itself that you want to play. I tend to like small picks. So anybody who knows that these are sort of jazz size. This is closer to a regular size pick, and you can see that this is the sort of the jazz size of it. See if I can line that up. There we go. That's about the size. And even this is a little bit smaller than a regular size pick. I've kind of come to believe that, at least for me, these D'Addario Acrolux picks are the best. I think they're very similar to gravity picks. They're acrylic picks. They just have a stickiness on the strings when you're playing through that gives you enough bite, and I like the tone that I get out of them. And And I usually use about a thickness of a 1.5 millimeter. Those I find are the best sort of compromise between simple and or thin and thick. Um, One thing that you may like a lot are these Dava picks. So these Dava picks. Now this is a jazz-sized Dava pick, but they make regular-sized ones too, if that's what you're used to using. And what happens is when you hold them on the end, or when you hold them on the middle or back, they flex a lot. So they're great for strumming. But when you hold them near the tip, they don't flex much at all, and they're great for lead play. So it's kind of a nice combination of that. These are pretty good. I don't mind them. They're not my absolute top, but I like them, and they're not that expensive. So that's kind of nice. You bet. Thanks. Hey, Edmund Wu. Hey, hello to you. Okay, I've been told many great players, whatever is comfortable and what works. Yeah, I think so. I mean, we're not classical musicians. I think, find something that works for you, get the technical proficiency that you need to get, and try not to go beyond that too much. I think, I remember the very first guitar teacher that I had when I was young. It was my cousin, Dave, great guy. Ended up being the best man at my wedding, so always been around. And he told me, I asked him how he played so fast, and he said, just don't worry about that. Just try and play it right. And eventually, in a year or two, you'll be fast. And I hate to say it, but he was right. I think there are some exercises that you can do for alternate picking, but I hate exercises like that. I mean, I hate exercises in general. Maybe I can go jogging once a week, But, um, but I think I told people this, that I resolved to be a better picker, because I remember when I first learned like rock and roll stuff, I was constantly playing. All the speed is coming. All the speed's coming from hammer-ons and pull-offs, which is cool. It's great, but my picking kind of sucked. And so what I resolved to do was not to pull off at all for a couple of months, or as long as it took. And that's what I did. Man, it was hard. It was hard not to do pull-offs and hammer-ons and any of those effects. And I'm sure my playing was terrible for those couple of months. And it drove people crazy. But I actually focused on a particular player, and that was Steve Howe. Steve Howe became my idol for that, or my hero for that period of time, because he picked everything, or at least it sounded like to me that he picked almost everything. And it really, really helped my picking. Just to do it all the time, you have to figure out how to do alternate picking. You have to know how to do 3 versus 2 strings. That's an issue with the minor pentatonic. I think when people only play minor pentatonic, first of all, they learn a scale, and they sound like they're playing scales, and that to me always sounds crappy. But there's always 2 on every string. And that's great, but it doesn't help you develop your picking as much because there's not 2 versus 3. Like if you play the major scale, or let's play a Dorian mode right here, E Dorian. So because most of those have 3 notes on the string, not all of them. The first one has 3, second one only has 2, third one has 3, and so forth. Because of that difference of those, you have to adjust with your picking, and at first it takes a lot of thought to see, how do I strike each string? And eventually you just kind of figure it out. So I don't think too much about picking anymore. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I have to, because there's a specific lick that I'm trying to get down, and it really requires a particular picking pattern. But or I need a downstroke on whatever. But usually I don't. So it's held me in good stead. To just force myself to do it for a long time was the thing. We all have a natural limit, and that we can improve up to that limit. Yeah, I think that's probably true, but most of us don't reach that natural limit. I'd suggest, Geert, and that's probably a good thing because musically, if we all just played super, super, super technical, I don't know. To me, George Harrison sounds better. He's a much better player than say Yngwie. Yngwie had a hell of a lot more technique than George did in terms of being able to play real technical things. Or Paul Gilbert, for example, a guy who I actually like as a player. He's okay. He's a monster player. What am I saying? And I like how he sounds. But I'll still take George Harrison any day. Plays interesting things. He plays musical things. So get a little bit down. I usually give people that advice. Don't try and do too many scales. Learn one. I happen to learn the major scale. That was my main thing. I didn't know the pentatonics all over the place. Surprise, I knew the major scale all over the place. And then you try and make that adapt to whatever you're trying to play. And then, it's kind of like music and trying to see the musical. There's a filter, certainly. There's a filter, which isn't always good. But if I would have gone on and said, okay, now I got to learn the blues scale, and now I got to learn the minor pentatonic, now I got to learn all these diminished and half diminished scales, and now I've got to learn whole tone scales, now I've got to learn all the modes, now I've got to learn all the modes in the minor of the melodic minor, and now it's time for me to put away my guitar because I haven't even played any music. I like theory and all that kind of stuff, and I like technique, but I think music has to take the front seat. Oh yeah, I love Steve Howe. I didn't love Asia that much, I gotta admit, Daniel. I don't love that music so much, but yes, yeah, absolutely, one of my top. Always losing picks. What caused me to become a good finger picker. It's funny. Chicken picking's fun, but my chickens always wear out. Yeah, no, I know, I know, Geert. I know you didn't mean that. what I was going on. But I think you're right. I think when you're talking about natural limit, I think you were talking about it kind of the same way. Some people are, they're built for either it's their mind or their body or both, right? Because really it's kind of the same thing. But they're built for playing all these fast lines. I am never ever going to try and play like Guthrie Govan. He has great ideas. I might try and steal a few of his ideas, but not going to try and play like him. Yeah, and you say really like Blackmore's feel and No Choice, but not necessarily his fiddliness. Yeah, I like Blackmore too. He's got a lot of technique. But on the other side of the scale, you've got guys like Neil Young. George had a mite bit more technique than Neil Young, but Neil Young still is a great guitarist, at least in my opinion, because he can play things that other people can't play. Like I don't hear too many people play in a way that Neil Young does to kind of eke out the. Listen to Cortez the Killer. Listen to that solo section at the end. And it's just, it just stabs me right through the heart every time I listen to it. It just feels like, I don't know, it feels like the sun washing down on the beaches and just, I don't know, it just takes me to another place. Really good. Thanks. Yeah. Yeah, Blackmore picks every note on Solo of Smoke on the Water. You don't hear any pull-offs. Yeah, Powderfinger. Oh yeah, Powderfinger. Love it. Right. Yep. So many good things. Igor Paspal J. Okay, well I will check it. Okay, gang. Yeah, Neil's finger picking is quite good. All right, gang. Well, hey, so what should we do on our next live stream? What do you want to do for a lesson? Did you enjoy this one? Is outside play fun? Did you feel you learned something? We can always talk about topics we can talk about, but how about sort of the lesson portion? Did this work for you guys? The delay always kills me. It's like a 30-second delay. Ron liked it. Okay. So what would be some other things, either theory or styles, that you'd like? Yeah, Robbie, that's true. Thanks, Jeff. Thank you. Yeah, that's what I try to do. I try and give really simple things. You bet, Daniel. Hendrix-ish. Yeah, today's was Hendrix-ish, right. The backing track was definitely teach the major scale. Okay, we can do that. That's not a bad one. That's a real easy one. And I think in some ways it's sort of the basics of that. Always interested in cage, soloing, and improv. Okay, cool. We can certainly do caged. Caged, one of my favorite ways to kind of understand the fretboard. And if you are a believer in chord tones, which I certainly am, caged is a natural thing to use for that. So there you go. You got to commit to, if you want to do caged, you really have to commit to understanding triads. You got to see them all over. You got to see the same triad in multiple positions pretty much instantly. Yep. Caged is really powerful stuff. So definitely we can do caged. Yep. Blues is diminished and half diminished. How to build it. Yep. We can certainly do that too. Yep. Caged and chord tones. Caged and cage tones. I like that. Yeah. Well, see, I mean, the cage system really is about chords. And, it's sort of like the house that Jack built, if you think about it. The first step is to know every note on the fretboard. If you don't do that, you're kind of wasting your time, I think, with caged and with all the rest of the stuff. So that's the number one thing. If you don't know the notes on the fretboard, memorize. Go ahead and get those memorized, starting with the 6th and 5th strings and moving all the way up to the 1st. Once you get that, then cage really becomes about, number one, seeing the roots of a particular chord as quickly as possible, and then understanding the triads that are built off of that, basically major and minor. But if you know major and minor, then that's enough. And yeah, that's it. Chord soloing, using chords instead of notes to solo. Yeah, we could do that. We could do that. Robbie, what would be an example of that? Like what would be an example song that you're thinking of for that one, using chords soloing instead of notes? Like West Coast Blues by Wes Montgomery, or more in the pop rock genre? Yeah. Yeah, so I think, for people who have a mental block with caged, make sure, the first thing I'd say is make sure that you know the notes on the fretboard. If you don't yet know the notes on the fretboard, don't attempt caged. Learn the notes of the fretboard first. Texas Blues. That's always a good one. Yeah. Chromatic runs and soloing. Okay, plus putting hammer on and off runs up the fretboard into solos. Okay. TBA, what do you mean by that second part? It's not clear to me. Putting hammer-ons up and down the fretboard. Do you mean something like what we did with that page and like what I did with a page and an Eddie Van Halen thing? You know, like the it was I think it was, I don't know if I can get it up here, but it was the you know, that sort of thing. You know, that's certainly a hammer-on and pull-off, you know, extraordinary. That kind of thing. Is that what you're talking about? Double stop runs. Oh, okay, we can certainly do double stops. Double stops are always fun. Yeah, we did a lot of chromatics today, but we can certainly do more. Chromatics are a lot of fun to play. I just dig them a lot, and to me, it's not about learning that chromatic scale. It's about learning. It's about, you know, whatever you've already know and kind of putting something in there. There's a lovely, lovely lick. It's one of my favorite licks, which it's a Charlie Christian lick, so I'll try and play it clear. But let's see if I can play it decently here. And he played it over an F seventh chord, and it resolves on the ninth. But I just love the chromaticism of it. You can think of that as playing over a F minor pentatonic if you want, but it certainly doesn't sound like that. There's that third of that chord. You hear that? And that's an outside sound ending on the ninth of that A chord. Really nice. I'm out of practice on that, but I love that. And that's kind of like my, it used to be for a while, it was my go-to chromatic line that I would play. And I used it so often, I had to stop using it. But anyway, I always dug that one. Show you that one sometime too. Faster and moving in different positions up the fretboard as in the opening solo to Dream On. Faster, huh? Okay. Moving in different positions up the fretboard. Okay. Oh. Okay. So do you mean like sort of the Brad Paisley stuff that he does? That kind of stuff? That kind of stuff? You know? I can't do it. You know, that kind of stuff too. You know, that kind of stuff. Okay. We can maybe do something like that. I know Dream On isn't exactly like that. He's hitting notes a little bit stronger. But okay. We can do that kind of stuff. That's a lot of fun. Knowing the notes really helps with Cage. How to do pinch harmonics. Yeah, we can do that one. Definitely. Yeah. Okay, got it. Thanks, TBA. All right. Definitely can do that one. Yeah, and we can maybe even combine it with some Albert Lee stuff, right? Where he's doing those double stops. I'm terrible at them, but these sorts of things, right? You know, that kind of stuff. I don't know if you can hear that on there. Anyway, I like that kind of stuff. I love that double stop stuff. How about using a major scale has a guitar lesson sometime? Oh, a warm-up scale, okay. Major scale is a warm-up. That sounds good. Cool. Or SRV, Steve Ray Vaughan. Okay, got it. Yeah, so those are all great ideas. So let's do them. Let's do them for sure. I'll think about, maybe one of the ones that we can do. Milking a blues solo in, up, and down the neck. Okay, yeah, certainly, certainly. That's good. All right. Well, lots of different ideas from blues to playing some interesting runs to caged and some theory, double stops, all good stuff. Thanks. And pinch harmonics. I won't forget that one, Edmund. I appreciate that. And tone seeker double stop runs. Great. So I'm going to head off now. I've got a little bit of work to do. Actually, I am finishing the stuff, putting up the new course on Teachable. So that's just about ready to come out. Remember, we're off next week, but I will be on the week after that. And yeah, so I'll be on the week after that, and I will. Maybe I won't be on the week after that because I know I'm going to be in Arizona for a while. Well, I'll tell you what. Look for the next few weeks. I think February is going to be tough. I forgot I'm going on vacation to Arizona. My daughter's looking at a couple of colleges out there, so we're going to combine it with hiking and fishing and stuff. But I guess just kind of look on the. I'll announce it on the channel, so you can either go to the channel page. It'll be on there. If you have the bell, certainly it will be announced. And if you're a friend of mine on Facebook, you can also see it from there. Okay, so lots of different places that you can see it for that. All right, I am going to sign off for today. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining me. I really appreciate it. And so just hey, let's shove off wishing Matt a happy birthday and El Rondo a speedy recovery. I think he just kind of went into the, I don't know if it's into the hospital or whatever. He's hopefully he's going to be healthier than ever when he comes back. So we'll see it. Ron, thanks for being here. TBA, thanks. Jeff McManus, thank you. Mr. Thomas V. Matt, as always. And happy birthday to your mom. Robbie Love, always great. They Lie, Ohio, thank you. And thank you for coming on. SBJ, always great to have you on. Geert, as usual, as always, I should say. Daniel Nitton, thank you. If I forgot, Tone Seeker, thank you. Edmund, thank you. P, thanks. And lots of other people. If I forgot your name, I apologize. And hope to see you again. We'll see you on down the road.